entitled Karen destroys a gas station because her card got declined. And if this first story makes you shake your head, you'll probably be furious when you hear the second one. An entitled Karen goes on a rampage after her card was declined, which resulted in her destroying the entire gas station, throwing glass bottles on the floor and shattering them everywhere and knocking over all of the shelving and displays, which all results in her getting arrested and losing custody of her children. It all started when a woman in her 30s came into the gas station to pay for her gas. She brought her young children in with her, and they started stocking up on candy and soda before heading to the counter. She must have had $40 worth of junk food on the counter. Though that was an excessive amount of junk food for her and 2 children, everything seems fine otherwise. That is until her card got declined. At first she was chill about it and started looking for another card, which she did find. But when it got declined, all hell broke loose. She began to raise her voice, demanding to speak with the manager. The cashier tried to explain that the decline could be due to various reasons, including insufficient funds or fraud prevention measures. But the woman wasn't having any of it. She insisted that the cashier was wrong and that the transaction should have gone through. The woman's anger intensified as she grabbed candy and soda from the shelves and threw them at the cashier, causing them to shatter on the floor. Customers began to take notice of the commotion, and some of them started to leave the store in fear. The manager came to the scene to see what was happening. The woman turned her fury towards him, blaming him for the decline of her card. She knocked over shelves and displays, causing products to crash to the floor. Glass bottles shattered everywhere, creating a dangerous situation. The manager tried to calm the woman down, but his efforts were in vain. She accused him and the cashier of conspiring against her, saying that they were racist and sexist towards her. The police were called, and they arrived quickly, but the woman refused to listen to reason. She continued to yell and accuse him and the cashier of conspiring against her. She knocked over shelves and displays, sending products flying everywhere. Chips, candy bars, and other snacks littered the floor, creating an obstacle course that was difficult to navigate. As the police arrived, the woman's anger didn't subside. She threw more items at the officers, including bags of chips and soda cans. The police tried to reason with her, but she refused to listen. She was determined to get her way, no matter what the cost. Finally, the officers had no choice but to subdue her. They tackled her to the ground and handcuffed her, but even then, she continued to thrash and scream. Her children watched in horror as their mother was taken away by the police, leaving them behind in a store that was in complete disarray. The aftermath was devastating. The gas station owner had to close down the store for repairs, which cost him a significant amount of money. The mess that the woman had created took hours to clean up, and even then, there were broken glass fragments that could have caused injury to anyone who stepped on them. The woman's behavior was unacceptable, and it had severe consequences. She lost custody of her children, and she faced criminal charges for her actions. Her reputation was forever tarnished, and her name was plastered all over the internet as a cautionary tale of entitlement gone too far. What on earth was she thinking? She must have really had a screw loose up there. The fact that no one was hurt during her rampage was fortunate, but it easily could have ended in tragedy. This woman's behavior was unacceptable, and the consequences she faced were well deserved. She not only caused damage and destruction, but also put the lives of others at risk. It's fortunate that the police arrived quickly and were able to subdue her before anyone was injured. It's important to note that entitlement doesn't just affect the person who is acting entitled. It can have severe consequences for others as well. In this case, the gas station owner had to close down his store for repairs, costing him a significant amount of money. The customers who witnessed the incident were traumatized, and the woman's children were left without a parent. The entitled woman received the punishment she deserved. Jail time was appropriate for the severity of her actions, and hopefully, it served as a wake-up call to her and others who may be tempted to act in a similar manner. It's important to remember that our actions have consequences, and we must be mindful of the impact they have on others. What would you have done in a situation like that? What do you think she deserves for her actions? Let me know in the comments below. Story 2. Entitled couple comes to the restaurant I work at and treats me like garbage and does something completely unacceptable. If this story makes you furious, just wait until you hear the third one about some entitled rich teens. I work as a server at a popular restaurant in the downtown area of my city. It's a bustling place, always busy with customers coming in and out, but it's also one of the best places to work. I love my job and enjoy serving the customers who come in every day. However, one day, I encountered an entitled couple who treated me like garbage and did something completely unacceptable. It all started when a couple walked into the restaurant, dressed in expensive clothes and carrying themselves with an air of superiority. They didn't even acknowledge me when they came in, but instead, they looked around with disdain, as if they were looking for something to criticize. I approached them and greeted them with a smile, but they didn't seem interested in my welcome. Instead, the woman snapped her fingers and said, "We want a table by the window and make it quick." Her tone was rude, and I could tell that she didn't think I was worth her time. I led them to their table by the window, and they immediately began looking around, frowning at everything they saw. They complained about the decor, the lighting, and even the temperature, saying that it was too cold and that they wanted me to adjust it. I did my best to accommodate their requests, but no matter what I did, they were still unhappy. They complained about everything from the salt shakers to the cutlery, making it clear that they thought they were too good for the restaurant. As I took their order, the man interrupted me, saying that he wanted his steak cooked medium rare. When it arrived, however, he insisted that it was overcooked and sent it back to the kitchen. When the second steak arrived, he complained again, saying that it was still overcooked and demanded a refund. I tried to apologize and explain that we had followed his order, but he didn't want to hear it. He kept insisting that he was right and that we were wrong, treating me like I was stupid and incompetent. The woman chimed in, saying that the service was terrible and that they shouldn't have to pay for their meal. I was getting frustrated and upset, but I kept my cool, trying to defuse the situation as best I could. However, things took a turn for the worse when the couple did something completely unacceptable. The woman suddenly stood up, reached over to a nearby table, and grabbed a glass of water. Without warning, she threw the entire contents of the glass right in my face. I was stunned and completely taken back by her audacity. The other customers around us gasped in shock, and I could feel the wetness of the water running down my face and soaking into my clothes. I didn't know what to do at first, but then I felt a rush of anger and indignation. I couldn't believe that these entitled customers thought it was acceptable to treat me this way just because they didn't like the restaurant. I took a deep breath and tried to keep my voice calm as I said, "I'm sorry, but that behavior is completely unacceptable. I cannot continue to serve you. I will have to ask you to leave the restaurant." This only made it worse. As they stood up to leave, the woman started shouting at me, saying I was a piece of garbage and that I didn't deserve to have them as customers. She yelled things like I am a good tipper, which I highly doubt. Her husband was mouthing me as well, but I couldn't hear a word he was saying because his wife was so ungodly loud. My manager came out and started pointing towards the door and raising his voice enough so that they would hear him telling them to leave before he called the cops. Finally, they caught his message and started making their way to the door, yelling and screaming the entire time. But that wasn't enough for them. They started grabbing the wall decor and throwing it on the ground. They even knocked over our silverware station that was tucked away neatly behind one of the booths. Now, silverware that took us hours to roll was now on the ground and would have to be rewashed and rolled again. My manager shouted that he was now calling the cops, which finally got them to stop their rampage and made them leave the store in a hurry. They quickly disappeared and would not be seen again. The police arrived and we did our best to describe the couple to them. We pulled our surveillance tapes which caught them coming in and out the door. Hopefully that will be enough to identify them so they can at least get a ticket for disturbing the peace and a bill for the damage they had done. What makes people think they can act this way? It took me hours to finally come down from it all, and it will probably take weeks for me to stop thinking about it daily. They probably went home and never thought about it again. Some people. That was insane. Have you ever had this happen to you or seen it happen to someone else? Let me know in the comments below. Story 3. Entitled teens with rich parents try to steal from our store, and I end up being the one in trouble. I work at a retail store which sells all sorts of electronic gadgets from smartphones to gaming consoles. It's not a bad job or anything, but some days it can be pretty frustrating dealing with entitled customers. Like the other day, when a group of teens walked in and started acting all sketchy. They were dressed in expensive clothes, talking on their iPhones and looking around like they owned the place. I had a feeling they were trouble, so I kept an eye on them as they headed towards the electronics section. They started browsing through the smartphones, tablets, and gaming consoles, looking at all the expensive items. One of them, a blonde girl with designer sunglasses, picked up a new iPhone and pretended to be interested. She asked me some questions about the phone, but I could tell she was just trying to distract me. I kept watching them, and sure enough, one of the boys tried to sneak a tablet into his backpack. That's when I approached them. "Excuse me, can I help you with anything?" I asked. They just shrugged and said they were browsing, but I could see their eyes darting around, looking for a way out. I knew they were up to something, so I kept an eye on them. Then, the blonde girl picked up another phone and started pretending to call someone. "Yeah, Dad, we're at the store. Do you want me to pick up anything for you?" she said, loud enough for me to hear. I knew this was a bad sign. These kids were rich, entitled, and thought they could get away with anything. I walked up to them and asked to check their bags. That's when they got defensive. "What? Why do you need to check our bags?" "We didn't do anything wrong," the boy with the tablet said. I told them I saw what they were doing and that I had to check their bags. That's when they started getting really entitled. "Do you know who we are? We can buy anything we want. We don't need to steal," the blonde girl said. They refused to let me check their bags, so I had to call the manager. When he arrived, the teens immediately started calling their parents. They were saying stuff like, "Dad, this guy is harassing us," and "Mom, we didn't do anything wrong. Can you come down here and straighten this out?" The parents arrived in less than 10 minutes. They were wearing expensive suits and driving a shiny black Mercedes. They looked like they were straight out of a high society magazine. The manager greeted them with a big smile and started apologizing for the inconvenience. "Please, let me assure you, we take customer service very seriously here. We would never harass our customers," he said. The parents were equally entitled, saying things like, "We're not just any customers, we're your best customers, and our family has been shopping here for generations." They immediately denied the entire incident and started accusing me of harassment. "We demand an apology. Our children have never stolen anything in their lives," the father said. The manager was caving in, trying to keep the entitled parents happy. He even accused me of causing a scene and told me to apologize to the teens. "I'm sorry for any inconvenience we may have caused you," I said through gritted teeth. The entitled teens smirked at me, knowing they had won. They walked out of the store with their bags, acting like they had just pulled off the heist of the century. The entitled parents gave the manager a wink and a nod, as if to say that's how you do business, son. They all got into their shiny black Mercedes and drove off, leaving me standing there, feeling defeated. I couldn't believe it. These entitled brats had just walked out of the store with stolen goods, and I was the one who got in trouble for it. The manager had basically thrown me under the bus to keep the rich and entitled customers happy. I felt angry, frustrated, and betrayed. After that incident, I started looking for a new job. I couldn't work for a company that didn't have my back when I was just doing my job. I ended up finding a job at a small tech startup that valued its employees and didn't cater to entitled customers. It was a breath of fresh air, and I couldn't be happier. Do you think rich and entitled people should be able to get away with stuff like that? Let me know in the comments below. When you subscribe, be sure to click the notification bell. Click here for more Tangled threats.